Idaho college student killings. The quadruple homicide stunned the college community of Moscow, sparking weeks of speculation and thousands of tips before culminating in an arrest. The killings of 4 University of Idaho students in November 2022 at an off-campus residence stunned the small community of Moscow, where investigators grappled with what the town's police chief would later describe as a very complex case. No suspect was immediately named in the deaths of housemates Madison Mogen, 21, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, and Xana Kernodle, 20, as well as Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, 20. Nor was a murder weapon believed to be a large fixed-blade knife found. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. But the intense scrutiny on the unsolved. Then, nearly 7 weeks later, with the community on edge and speculation swirling about who could commit such violence, police announced an arrest in Pennsylvania of a doctoral student in criminal justice. After years of preparation to go to trial, the suspect, Bryan Kohberger, agreed to a deal to plead guilty in exchange for avoiding a potential death sentence if he were convicted. He was sentenced to 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Here's a timeline of key moments in the case. Nov 12, 2022. Starting at around 9 p.m., Kernodle and Chapin are seen at a party at Chapin's fraternity, Sigma Chi, a short walk from the King Road apartment house where the roommates lived, according to investigators. That night, Goncalves uploads pictures to her Instagram account featuring photos of the friends with the caption, "One lucky girl to be surrounded by these people every day." At about 10 p.m., Goncalves and Mogen go to a sports bar in Moscow, the Corner Club. Nov 13, 2022. At about 1:30 a.m., Goncalves and Mogen are seen ordering from a nearby food truck, according to the truck's live stream. Investigators say Kernodle and Chapin returned to their 3-level house on King Road at about 1:45 a.m., while Goncalves and Mogen take a car ride home, arriving at about 1:56 a.m. Meanwhile, 2 other housemates who had gone out that night had arrived home before the others, at about 1 a.m., Moscow police say. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call is placed on the cell phone of one of the other housemates requesting assistance for an unconscious person. Both housemates were unharmed. Police alert the public about the deaths in a news release, and while they say no one is in custody, they do not believe there is an ongoing community risk based on information gathered during the preliminary investigation. Nov 16, 2022. With no suspect apprehended, Moscow police walk back previous comment that there was no threat to the largely rural city of almost 26,000 residents. "We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there," Moscow Police Chief James Fry says at a news conference. He adds that the more than 25 investigators with the Idaho State Police and the FBI are assisting in the case. Nov 17, 2022. Preliminary autopsy results show that the 4 victims were likely attacked with a large knife and died sometime after 2 a.m. from multiple stab wounds, Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt says. She describes their wounds as pretty extensive. Nov 18, 2022. Police say the victims were most likely asleep when they were slain, and some of them had defensive wounds. There was also no sign of sexual assault. Meanwhile, detectives seize the contents of 3 dumpsters near the home to search for possible evidence, and they contact local businesses to determine if a knife had recently been purchased. Nov 30, 2022. A vigil is held at the University of Idaho in honor of the victims, with some family members in attendance. "We're going to get our justice," Stephen Goncalves, Kaylee's father, says, adding that his daughter and Mogen had been best friends since the 6th grade, and he had learned that they were in the same bed when they were killed. They went to high school together, then they started looking at colleges. They came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together, he said. And in the end, they died together. Dec 1, 2022. Moscow police reaffirmed the quadruple homicide was part of a targeted attack, after authorities appeared to suggest the opposite. We remain consistent in our belief that this was indeed a targeted attack, but have not concluded if the target was the residents or its occupants, a police spokesperson says. The department also continues to dispel online rumors and speculation, and says it has cleared certain people seen interacting with Goncalves and Mojin on the evening they were killed. Police also say the two housemates who were home during the attack had been sleeping that night. Dec 2, 2022. The two housemates, Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, release letters saying they are struggling to accept why the lives of 4 beautiful people were taken so brutally. Dec 5, 2022. Detectives focus on Chapin's and Kernodle's activities on the evening they were killed, and ask the public for information about the nearly 5 hours from when the couple arrived at the Sigma Chi party to the apartment house on King Road. Dec 6, 2022. Police say they recognize how frustrating the lack of news can be for the families and the public, but insist they do not want to jeopardize the case. We are at that point in the investigation where we're still gathering information, we're still gathering tips, we're still gathering evidence, we're still doing everything we need to do, Fry says in a video posted online. Dec 7, 2022. Police begin removing personal items of the victims from the apartment house and returning them to their families. They also announce what appears to be an integral part of the investigation. They say they are looking to speak with any occupants of a white Hyundai Elantra from 2011-13 with unknown license plates. They do not say whether they believe the driver is linked to the killer, but say that person may have critical information to share. Dec 15, 2022. Christy Goncalves, Kaylee's mother, expresses frustration during an interview with NBC's Today Show that she only learned about the police interest in the Hyundai Elantra when the rest of the public did, underscoring how some victims' families feel left in the dark. Dec 21, 2022. Fry tells NBC News that his department is in daily contact with families, and we ask them to be patient as the investigation progresses. The police chief again insists the investigation is not a cold case, and our end goal is to bring somebody to justice for those families and for those victims. At a news conference, Fry says he believes Kohberger is the only suspect. What I can tell you is that we have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes, he says, and I do believe our community is safe. Dec 31, 2022. The public defender of Monroe County, Pennsylvania, where Kohberger is being held, says the suspect intends to waive his extradition hearing to face charges in Idaho. He should be presumed innocent until proven otherwise, not tried in the court of public opinion, Jason Labar says in a statement, adding, Mr. Kohberger is eager to be exonerated of these charges and looks forward to resolving these matters as promptly as possible. Jan 3, 2023. Kohberger appears in court and agrees to return to Idaho. Jan 4, 2023. Kohberger is flown across country in a Pennsylvania State Police plane and booked into the Latta County, Idaho jail. Jan 5, 2023. Kohberger makes his first appearance in an Idaho court and is ordered held without bail. Another pretrial hearing is set for Jan 12. Investigators say male DNA discovered on a knife sheath was used to link Kohberger to the crime scene, and that they had been tracking his car, a white Hyundai Elantra, and cell phone use in the area, according to newly released court documents. Jan 4, 2023. Kohberger is flown across country in a Pennsylvania State Police plane and booked into the Latta County, Idaho jail. Jan 5, 2023. Koberger makes his first appearance in an Idaho court and is ordered held without bail. Another pretrial hearing is set for Jan 12. Investigators say male DNA discovered on a knife sheath was used to link Koberger to the crime scene, and that they had been tracking his car, a white Hyundai Elantra, and cell phone use in the area, according to newly released court documents. Jan 18, 2023. A list of items seized from a search warrant for Koberger's Pullman, Washington, apartment is made public. The belongings include a pillow with a reddish-brown stain, a disposable glove, and at least a dozen strands of hair. Feb 28, 2023. A search warrant for the home of Koberger's parents in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, reveals more items seized, including 4 medical-style gloves, a silver flashlight, and a buccal swab DNA test. March 13, 2023. Prosecutors seek data from major tech firms such as Apple and Amazon, as well as social media platforms and retailers as part of their investigation, according to court documents made public. They also request bank and social media information tied to the 4 victims in order to build a digital picture of the crime and the suspect. April 21, 2023. Funk, one of the surviving housemates, files a motion to quash a subpoena that would require her to testify at Koberger's preliminary hearing in June, while an investigator for his defense said in an affidavit that she knows information that would be exculpatory to the defendant. Funk in her motion said the statement is without support, and there is no further information or detail pertaining to the substance of this testimony, its materiality, or the alleged exculpatory information. April 26, 2023. Funk agrees to interview with the defense counsel, according to a court filing, but she won't have to travel to Idaho. May 4, 2023. Newly released police body cam video.